Do you know, I've literally just got home and got changed, so I'm literally not wearing it. I've been wearing it all morning and done a workout, and I thought, I don't think Laura's going to appreciate me hopping on a live with her and not actually making an effort, even though I'm sat on the sofa drinking a cup of tea on this Friday afternoon.
Well, you know, I have a few million followers, Angie. You know, this is a perfect opportunity to advertise your gear. So, you know, what can I say? A missed opportunity.
To be fair, yesterday was so crazy. I'm not sure whether I want to advertise it anymore.
Well, it's brilliant. Congratulations for that.
It was a really good day yesterday.
Fantastic. So, Angie, I have grabbed you. I've not yet to grab you physically. We have never actually met physically, have we? But
no.
I'm looking forward to the day when I can. But I wanted to grab Angie to have a bit of an honest deep dive into physical activity and food. They are two subjects that we're both very passionate about, and in the women that we help to love their bodies, move their bodies in a way that feels right for them, put nourishing food inside their bodies. We all we come from the same hymn sheet, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
So before I delve in, do you want to just tell people a little bit about who you are, and sort of a blind date-esque kind of what's your name, where'd you come from, yeah, how do you spend your days?
So yeah, I'm Angie Bell over in Warminster in Wiltshire, for those who don't live around here. I run a studio in Warminster, which is obviously unfortunately closed at the moment, but we've been really lucky that our customer base has kind of gone online with us, so we've been really lucky. 7 days a week we're working out with them. I'm also a personal trainer, and throughout lockdown, to kind of keep myself personal training and looking after people on a one-to-one, I've been doing kind of monthly workouts. So we do like a couple of workouts a week. We also do like a lot of self-care, and we also do a lot of nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist. My ethos from myself is kind of about having balance. I've kind of been there through the times of, you know, crazy yo-yo dieting, calorie deficits, and all that malarkey of the crazy up and down yo-yo dieting nightmare that we've all kind of been through over the last 10 or 20 years, which is probably why most of our customers, yours and mine, are at a struggling point now, because they've kind of been on that roller coaster. So the whole month with me kind of feel is that people just eat well. They cook their meals from fresh. You move more, you exercise well. It's not all about, you know, we do a bit of yoga, we do a bit of stretching, we try a little bit of tempo or some HIIT, or it's just doing a little bit of everything. And I kind of think once you find your sweet spot of what you like to eat and how you like to move, that's kind of where the magic happens for me. And I'm sure that is for you. And I know that you posted this week of kind of like, you've got to earn your food. You know, there's a big saying of people saying you've got to earn this and you've got to earn that. But I genuinely feel like for the last 15 years, I've worked out. I haven't been on and off. I've just worked out. There's been weeks where I haven't and weeks where I have. We were talking the other day about this, like, Christmas weight and summer weight. It's always a difference, but I always know I'm going to kind of stay in that range, and I don't really stress about it. Tonight we've got friends up the road that make gorgeous homemade pizzas. We'll all indulge in those tonight. I'll probably have a gin because Josh is home from a week away, and we'll eat some chocolate. So it's about having that balance. I definitely don't think I've got to earn it, but I definitely feel like my lifestyle allows me to have nice things and lazy days and busy days and good meals. You know, it just is finding that balance and finding a happy place with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're speaking to there is this flexible approach, isn't it? And often when people are battling on a particular diet regime and trying to stick to a very rigid physical activity schedule, actually there is no flexibility in that whatsoever, and it ends up feeling very rigid, and it just becomes a thing that they can sort of beat themselves up over the head with, rather than actually something that they feel in tune with. And before I ask you for your kind of myths around exercise, I just wanted to share a couple of myths around nutrition, because I know some of the people joining are obviously from your side of the camp. So hello to people who don't know me. But yeah, the first thing to say is that we have this notion that we need to earn our right to eat carbohydrate by doing exercise. And one of the fundamental things that we seem to forget, or that we're not aware of, is that even at rest, our bodies are burning a huge amount of energy, and we have to get that energy from our food. And it's either going to come from fat or it's going to come from carbohydrate. Protein is not really designed to be used as a fuel. We want the amino acids in protein to be used to rebuild and replenish our muscles. We do absolutely use protein, and we do convert that into carbohydrate when we don't eat enough carbohydrate. And often what we find actually in people that are following quite restrictive diets and being very cautious and eating quite low carbohydrate, and then wondering why their body composition is not changing because they're doing quite a lot of resistance work, for example. Actually what's happening is that the protein is not being used to replenish and build that muscle. It's actually just being broken down and used as a fuel, because there is not enough carbohydrate going in. So we have to kind of get our head around the fact that carbohydrate is a fuel that we are going to titrate up and down depending on how active we are, and that our brain is very metabolically active and is burning through a lot of glucose simply through multitasking, motherhood, you know, the craziness of the day. We are asking a lot of our brain. And fundamentally, carbohydrate does improve performance. If you are doing high intensity training, the only fuel that your body is able to use in high intensity training is carbohydrate. So again, if you are not eating it, your body is having to make it. And the best, easiest way for it to make carbohydrate is by using protein. So a few myths there that I just kind of wanted to sort of set straight. The last one that I think is a really interesting one, and I don't know if you come across this, is that we have this notion that if we're exercising fasted, so if we're sort of exercising on an empty stomach, that we're then going to burn fat. And that's obviously, you know, what we think is a good thing. We want to feel that we can burn fat. Burning fat as a fuel is not the same as being in a calorie deficit and therefore using up our fat stores. So that those two things are very, very different. And burning fat as a fuel is something that we do, particularly in endurance. We will use a mixture of fuels. We will use carbohydrates and we will use fat. Professional athletes will what we call train low. They will teach their bodies to burn fat efficiently so that they have a mixture of fuels that they use when they train. So it is a strategy that works well to train low sometimes, but actually sometimes if we're not fueling ourselves before a workout, that can also impact on our ability to really nail that workout and really, you know, get the spring in our step, can't it?
Yeah, well, we have morning classes at the studio and actually online now, which is 9:30, and it's a really hard time because actually if you've been up with the morning, you know, got the kids ready, done school lunches, done the school run, and then come to a class, you might not have actually had time to make some breakfast for yourself. But you can tell those people in a class, because those are typically the people who are really struggling, who, you know, some people do work better on an empty stomach. I think it is something for everybody, but I think we definitely, it's just another form of reducing your calories, like fasting in the morning. I think that is what it all comes down to, is every different diet that, you know, is suggested, or it's a new fad or a new craze, is just by reducing your calories. And it's just a new way of putting it. And I think if you're mindful that you're eating, you know, far too much than what your body requires, you probably are going to be a person that struggles with their weight. But it's other factors. It's like, why is that happening? You know, what's going on in your life for that to happen? My thinnest over the last 5 years was actually when I wasn't training at all, and I was really poorly with a gallbladder issue. So my calorie intake had gone down, but my body just looked awful. Like I had no structure, I had no strength. I just had no energy. And that was like a really hard time for me, because I genuinely couldn't even walk the kids to town. But, you know, I would see people and they would genuinely say to me, oh my God, you know, I'm going to try the gallbladder diet. And it's like, you know, but it is that kind of thing. It is that, it's almost like if you told people like they could have the gallbladder diet and it was painful, they'd almost go through it, because maybe it's like the breakup diet or something, you know. It's almost like people think that that is a good thing, but actually what is a nice thing is a strong body, is a healthy body, is a fit body, and feeling good in your clothes. And actually that doesn't mean a size or a weight. That actually, when I was probably 2 stone lighter, when I was having my gallbladder issue, everything just felt really wobbly. Whereas now, you know, fitter and stronger and training and eating well, nothing really wobbles. It's kind of like that nice place of it's just so hard for people, isn't it?
It is, and just trying to keep separating it as a really, really good health behavior. You know, to have strength in your body helps with strength in your mind. It helps you to want to take care of your body. And uncoupling it from dieting is absolutely essential, because if you are doing dieting and exercise together, and then the scale suddenly starts telling you stuff different, and kind of you're trying really hard and then the scale doesn't move, you're thrown, aren't you, into turmoil, because you're like, but hang on a minute, last week I did exactly the same thing and I lost pounds, and this week I'm doing exactly, and it just screws with your head. And we can see that exercise then sometimes tails off for people because they've used it purely as a let me, you know,
not because they enjoy it or it makes them feel good. I went to a meeting actually before I was coming to you, and I was dancing in the car, and I got out of the car and the girls were like, oh my God, she's nuts. But it was like, I've worked out this morning, I've had my breakfast, I feel good. That is genuinely what makes me feel good. And I think if that's your reason for doing it, you'll find yourself in a much, much happier place. And I do feel really, I genuinely feel very lucky in life to not battle with my body every day. And that's not because it's perfect, because by no means, when it's got nothing on, is there not points I would change. However, I kind of feel like if I put my clothes on and I feel semi-okay, well, that's like, my body is not something that I must kind of give a hard time to every day, and I mustn't tell it off like it's making me train 3, 4, 5 times a week. Some weeks it's eating well, like it's doing everything it should be. So actually that balance
is
working. This is how my body is obviously meant to be.
It does so much for us, and it carries us around every day. And I think if we continually beat ourselves up and we disconnect the body and the mind.
That's so true. You do disconnect. It's like, this body, it's like, that's yours, that belongs to you, like that's what you should be really proud of.
Absolutely.
But I get the other side of it, that, you know, this is my job. I feel very lucky to be able to, you know, exercise, and motivating other people motivates me, so it's a little bit easier if that is your job. I get that.
And it's threaded through your day-to-day life, isn't it? But what are some of the I talked at the beginning, for those of you that have just joined, it's worth looking at the start of this, where I just did dispel some of the myths around how we use fuel during exercise, etc. But I'm just interested in some of the myths that you come across when we think about how we interact with exercise and our body. What are some of the things that,
like, biggest things I think with myths is like spot training. So somebody will come to me and say, right, I want to get like a really nice tummy, and I want to do loads of sit-ups, and it just doesn't work like that. And it's really funny, but majority is that your food is actually your nutrition. And it doesn't matter how hard you train, and you'll see by, you know, bodybuilders that bulk up through the winter and put on a lot of fat, but actually underneath is this really strong kind of inner core and body. But it's learning that it comes,
isn't it? Sorry, just to jump in there, because yes, it partly is nutrition, but it is also genetics and where you store fat, and where
this is what I was just about to say.
Sorry,
I had a lady the other day who's lost like a vast amount of weight. She was like, the last bit for me is like my tummy. And it was like, if I'm going to be honest, like sometimes you've got to be careful because you need to, you know, read your audience and know what they need to hear. But I was just like, it's probably always going to be a problem for you. Like for me, I have my areas that store fat, and for most women, it's probably like above the pants, below the bra, the armpit area. We always joke about this in classes, that like we just push it in our bra and count it as a boob. Like it's just padding that out a little bit more. But it's kind of like, they're the kind of things that make you a woman. Like the soft bits, don't kind of look at the flaws, look at it as a whole, because if I met you, I wouldn't look at certain areas of you, I would look at you as Laura as a whole and think, wow, she looks great, she looks healthy, she looks fit, you know. I probably wouldn't even think those things, would probably just be nattering. But I kind of think like spot training doesn't work. So it's all about doing a bit of, you know, a bit of cardio, doing a bit of strength, definitely doing some weights. And there's another myth in there of like ladies lifting weights. Like we don't have the testosterone in our body to mass ourselves up and build that muscle to the level that men do. And I think, you know, being strong is definitely a key part of feeling this toned that always gets thrown around. I don't really know what toned means, but if it feels a little bit more muscular, and the more muscle that you kind of have within the body, then the tighter you feel. So on a lot of my months we'll do inches, because actually people's weight doesn't change, but their inches do. And that can make you feel instantly better. So although you might not have lost any weight, you might have lost 2 inches around your tummy because you've been eating better. Your digestive system is working better. You're not bloated. You're not feeling, you know, you're not retaining water. So those things change. But the more muscle you have in the body, like the higher your calorie output is. So actually it's a really great place to be, is to feel strong physically and mentally. And sit-ups aren't going to give you a six-pack. Like functional movements with your squats and your deadlifts and swimming and stretching and you know, self-care, those are the things that kind of look after your body.
That's really interesting there, isn't it, that you're talking about functional movement, because I know famously that the some of the women powerlifters, you know, their pelvic floors are absolutely shot to pieces, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like I think, don't can a lady support or sponsor the power, you know?
Yeah.
So like we have this perception, don't we, of the sort of the body beautiful, and like you say, people poke and prod certain parts of their body and kind of say that's the area I want to target.
Yeah.
But actually we just have to be a bit more sophisticated than that, because there's so much that is just not within our control. And of course we have a predetermined weight, just like we have a predetermined height and shoe size. But we don't walk around going, oh, how can I get 2 inches taller and how can I fit into a size 5? We just sort of accept that that's the way it is. But there's something about the diet industry, there we go, that kind of then makes us believe that we have all this power and control to get exactly what we're looking for on the outside. And then when we think that we can't achieve it, we think it's us that's failed. And it just
it really is people going, I'm just a failure. Like I get a lot of people come to me and say, I just feel like such a failure for even coming to you. And I say this all the time, like other people who listen to me at other times, I say it a lot, but if I needed my accountancy books doing, I would go and see an accountant. If I needed my house painting, I'd go and see a painter. Like sometimes you just need somebody, a nutritionist, a personal trainer, or somebody, an expert in their field, to help you kind of just set some guidelines out. And actually, it's not about putting you on a diet or transforming. I hate these transformation packages and stuff like that, because actually you don't need to transform yourself. And it's that cliche thing of kind of talking to yourself how you would your best friend, but you would never stand with your best friend and say, well, if I were you, I'd just change that armpit fat and then inner thighs, and like you're like you would never do that, but yet you do that to yourself all the time. And I genuinely think if you can get out of that habit of doing that to yourself, and you know, there's no magic cure of how you do that, but it is acceptance of you are predetermined to be where you are. I'm predetermined to have a big bum. Even when I sit on a spin bike, you know, it kind of doesn't go anywhere. It just covers the seat. It's just one of those things. I'm never going to have big boobs. I'm always going to be, you know, quite flat chested. But do those things like give me a hang up? Do I feel like I should be any less loved by my partner because of that? Absolutely not. I feel really proud of my body for bearing 4 children. And actually, you know, up until 15 years ago, I was a really bad dieter. I used to, obviously I don't want anybody to think this is a great idea for a diet, but I was a keen Diet Coke and soft mint girl. I was single, didn't want to put any weight on, was so scared of eating a meal. And I was the thinnest, but the unhappiest I've ever been. And when me and Josh first met, I didn't even want to go out to dinner with him because I was too frightened of eating. Yet now, you know, I'm stones heavier, but I'm fit into my fitness. I love working out. I genuinely love my food. I cooked homemade pad thai last night with the help of Gusto. Like I just enjoy my food. I enjoy my life, and I feel like it's a lovely balance. and I'm not perfect.
No, and I think it's just being totally fine with that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chelsea just made a comment a little while ago about again this idea that sometimes if we're not seeing changes physically to body weight, for example, that some people who aren't very up on the evidence might say things like, well, you just need to train a bit harder, you just need to work out more.
Yeah.
And you know, what would you say to that? Because actually training, it's not about training harder, it's about being
And
smart,
actually, like your stress
and
levels, your
listening to your body.
cortisol hormone, if you go over
Yeah.
too much, like your hormones are then, and all of us women, I'm sure anybody my age struggles with hormones. We were talking about it this morning with the girls, but hormones decipher so much, like, and that's why the time of the month you might be feeling a bit heavier than you are. But you don't want to be training too hard because those cortisol levels will rise up, and in turn, they won't help you with your fat loss journey.
Yeah.
And I do think by being highly stressed all the time and by being angry with yourself leads to big binges. And this is what we work a lot on in the group in the monthly basis, is like, it's Friday night, go and have a glass of gin, go and have some chocolate. Don't feel bad about it, and don't get up in the morning and go, right, I've got to exercise now because I have a good, no. Like, it's a whole balance of like how you're going to live your life from now on. It's not a diet regime. It is not something new. This is something that people did with me last year, who are still continuing to eat the breakfasts and the lunches. And it basically is just eating real food, staying away from convenience. But at the same time, if you want to go and have a McDonald's, go and have a McDonald's.
But it's also understanding, again, that we have this notion that we can kind of calculate the number of calories that we consume. And of course, MyFitnessPal and other apps are classic for this.
Is one of my myths. It's a big thing. It's the calorie requirement. So I will get definitely on a weekly basis somebody messaging me and saying, so my calories, I've worked out my calories and it should be like 1,600. It's like, MyFitnessPal, I do love it. I think it's great for people to look at and see what they're, so some people will be like, I'm not eating that badly, and I'll be like, input it for a couple of days. Okay, I see where I'm going wrong. Like, I genuinely am eating far too many calories, or I'm not eating enough. Like, it's definitely the balance. But no app on any phone is going to tell you as a person how many calories you should eat. They don't know whether you are sitting at home all day and averaging 2,000 steps. They don't know whether you're on the go all the time. They don't know whether you suffer with anxiety, so you're constantly feeling stressed or anxious, your heart rate is up. Like, they just don't know what's going on in your life. So that's a really dangerous place to go, is to somebody who doesn't know you to tell you your calorie requirements.
But they also don't know what's going on inside your own body. And I think what's really interesting, even from the twin studies, so studies done on identical twins, right, where you know that you're then controlling for genetics, they're given exactly the same calorie diets in terms of numbers of calories, and completely different things happen to their weight. So there's another whole layer, particularly partly related to the gut microbiome and how that influences what we do with those calories when we consume them. There's even significant inaccuracies, actually. Well, I say significant, like if you look at the back of a packet and it says, this whatever has got this number of calories in it, that is not without a margin of error. So we're getting calculators out, and we're making it, and we look at our watches. Oh, I just burnt 400 calories on that spin class, and I've consumed. So let me do this minus this. It really is not. It's just not that, right? But we are given the impression by the multi-million-pound diet industry. There we go again. That it is, and therefore we're kind of flummoxing around trying to figure it out. And of course that adds to the guilt. So I can't remember the name, but somebody just
I just saw that. Kate just said, I always feel guilty when I have a treat. Like, that genuinely makes me sad. That genuinely makes, because I genuinely think there's people out there who don't enjoy their life because of that makes me feel so upset that there's people out there who genuinely don't enjoy their life because of their weight. They don't go out. I've got family members who don't go out because they don't feel, they would never go and buy a new outfit like that. That's heartbreaking. That's so sad that people are out there allowing their way. And I know it's easy for me to say, and I always say this because that is, that's my job, that's my lifestyle. But also, it's not like this big mountain to climb that you feel like you've got to do. Just give yourself a 5-year goal, a 4-year goal, a 3-year goal. Like, just say, I'm going to eat a little bit better. I'm going to cook my meals from fresh. and I'm going to walk every day, and I'm going to go swimming, which I love doing. And it doesn't have to be this like eat a green leaf and go running for 3 hours a day. Like that is not going to do you any good at all. It might do for a week, but after that you're just going to fall off the wagon, and like you said, that guilt's just going to come down on you. So it's kind of just saying, I've had enough of doing this. I don't want to live my life like this anymore.
But I think it's also realizing, she's saying there about hating her body, but I think we're not saying that we all have to love what we see in the mirror. What we're saying is that we have to respect it enough to want to look after it, because if it comes from that place, then actually you can have a chocolate bar, you can really love that chocolate bar and really enjoy it, but not go on to eat, you know, another 5 biscuits or whatever it might be, because actually you're not attributing any sort of moral value to that chocolate bar. You're not hanging a load of labels on it saying that it therefore means that you're this, and this, or that you failed, or that you've got no willpower, or that you're not worthy of love and
the battle you have with your own mind is crazy,
making it mean anything else. It's just a chocolate bar, and actually we have fantastic evidence that tells us that it doesn't matter about the chocolate bars and the donuts if the core of your diet has some really good healthy stuff in it. And yes, of course, it is about eating in tune with your body and feeling full and not overeating and pushing past that all of the time. But actually, fundamentally, none of these foods that we put under the umbrella of treats, they're not bad for us. They're not bad for the body. So again, we need to kind of reframe what that looks like. I'd love to have a chat with Katie. I think there's so much there.
But it's very regular that people who probably struggle with their weight more than anybody, who will say, like, I've had a chocolate bar, so now I've let myself down, my willpower's not good, I just can't do this anymore. So then they will go to the cupboard and they will eat some more and some more, and then that will go into Saturday and Sunday. And for 200 calories of something yummy that you really enjoyed, you've now tipped the scale and you've gone into 3,000 calories of unwanted calories just because you felt bad. And that's key to what you just said. It's just a chocolate bar. I eat chocolate all the time. Chocolate is one of my biggest things, and it's not because I'm lucky, because I can eat chocolate, and it's not that. It's just because that balance, because 80% of the time I'm eating food that I'm cooking from fresh. My breakfast in the morning is typically a homemade granola. My lunch is something yummy like a soup, and then dinner is always like a Gusto or Hello Fresh. So it's always made from scratch. But then on the odd Saturday night, we might be like, should we just go to M&S and get a curry? Like, I'm having the things that everybody else is having, but probably more moderation of the chocolates and the crisps and the wine. That's my 20%, and the 80% is goodness. Because also I do want to give my body goodness. I've got like a bowel condition, so I have to do those things to keep well for myself.
Because actually, if you say to people you've got permission to eat whatever you want, their instinct is, oh my God, don't tell me that, because I am literally going to eat chocolate bars all day long. And actually, they may well do that for a weekend. They may well eat chocolate because you've suddenly given them permission to do that. And it's a bit like a toddler let loose in a soft play, isn't it? Go for it, you know. And they might well do that. But the point is, that doesn't actually last, because then you realise that actually when you give yourself permission to eat as much chocolate as you want, it doesn't actually taste as good as you thought it did. Really loses its appeal. You know, the first few bites of a chocolate bar are absolutely heavenly, but actually by the end of the bar, you're a bit like, okay, I'm kind of over this now. So what people think is going to happen is not actually what happens at all. And they don't feel digestively particularly good. They don't sleep particularly well. They don't have much energy. They don't, they're not pooing particularly well, or whatever it might be. And actually, if you're loving yourself, wanting to nourish yourself, then you will find a place for chocolate in your diet, but it won't take over. So there's a whole host of things that people think are going to happen that just don't. So we could talk all day. Give us your, like, the one thing I find in the people that I work with, and even in myself, if I'm 100% honest, is that it's sometimes you lose your mojo a bit, don't you, around activity. And when you've done it, you get that beautiful euphoria, and you kind of think, oh, course I'm going to put my trainers on and do the same tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you kind of think, oh, you know, priorities and all that jazz. And because it's part of your life, maybe you don't struggle as much, but I know a lot of people do. So with that in mind, just, you know, real life, give us your tips. How do we develop a really healthy relationship with exercise that makes us want to do it consistently?
I think number one would be find something that you want to do. There's nothing worse than heading out for a run if you hate running. I think, you know, once you get into the throes of it, then add things in, but find something that works for you. And if I'm honest, like, the best thing you can do right now is get outside and walk. We're all stuck indoors. You won't sleep well at night if you haven't got outside and had that natural melatonin. Like, your body requires that to sleep well at night. So I think definitely just get outside and walk with a friend, like, make it a double whammy of like loveliness that you're seeing a friend. I think secondly is planning it in. I think, you know, the group that I'm with at the moment, we are working on planning. So sometimes people might write down what they've had to eat and what exercise they've done, but why not plan ahead? Why not say, right, Monday to Friday next week? Because if it's planned into your calendar, it's like there then, isn't it? You can't build things around it. And it's very easy. And I think as a mum of 2 toddlers, it's very easy to just say, I just can't find the time. If in lockdown I wasn't doing planned lives with customers, I wouldn't be working out. I know I wouldn't be. I'm so grateful to our customers for keeping me working, because it keeps my exercise. And I don't even think of like ever cancelling. Like, that's booked in. The customers are there ready and waiting. So book it in on your calendar. I think, you know, if you don't, it's that cliche saying of like, if you don't have a plan, it's just a wish. And I kind of think that's like really, really key. So definitely plan it in, definitely do something you love. And it is good to kind of see your benefits. So not only do I work off of pictures and measurements, so inches, we do a fitness test every month. So at the start of the month, they'll do a fitness test. And at the end of the month, they'll do a fitness test. And that fitness test is so much more rewarding than any of the weight loss of the inches, I can tell you. Because people are genuinely like, my God, I started this a month ago. I have not worked out for 6 months. And already I'm doing 20 push-ups and I only did 5. Like, that's where the key to happiness in your training comes from. And that's where weight loss comes from. If you're struggling with your weight, finding the love for fitness, that's where it's key. I kind of think if you give yourself this big, massive, it's like making it a habit. Like, you get up every morning, you brush your teeth, you go to bed every night, you brush your teeth. That's become a habit in life. It's almost creating yourself a habit that 3 days a week I do something, be it a walk, a swim, a run. I mean, YouTube has a whole host of millions of people now. And I probably shouldn't be shouting it out for other people, but when we had to isolate because we thought Josh had COVID. So I was like, oh my God, I was on this, I was on my last month with the guys, and our weekly goal was steps. So we were trying to see how many steps we could do above the week before. So there was this workout on YouTube, this guy just doing this 10,000 step workout, but he literally had the music on and it was just stepping and moving. And I genuinely felt so much better. Like, you don't have to have loads of kit at home. You don't have to do anything crazy. Sometimes you could just put the music on with the kids and have a dance, like, just move more.
And it doesn't have to be very long. I think the research shows that actually short bouts of exercise are just as effective. And so sometimes the thought of it having to last a certain length of time puts us off starting, doesn't it? But actually, you know, 10 minutes is enough. And actually the chances are once you've done 5, you'll probably do 15 or whatever. So,
and it's kind of putting that into your search bars as well. It's like, I just want a 10-minute workout. 10-minute workout, this is what I want. Don't go for the like 10-minute ab workouts, because we know the functional stuff, the dog wants to get in, look. The functional stuff is what's going to make you feel strong all over. So don't just work on your tummy because you picked out that an area of weakness for your body. That's not fair. Just say, I want 10 minutes of feel good fitness, and go and do it.
Awesome.
It doesn't have to be massive.
And do it from a place of kind of inner strength rather than, as we said, poking the bits of the body that we're trying to really home in on. That gives it so much more of an empowered feel to it, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Wow, amazing. I mean, we genuinely could talk, couldn't we, all afternoon. But for those of you that have joined along the way, thank you so much. And do listen to the full live because it's been really juicy and really
We haven't missed
insightful,
anybody's
I
comments or
think.
questions, have we? I think everybody's just
No,
listened,
I
but
don't think so. And there was a few hearts going up as well. So
oh,
um, do give Angie a follow if you don't already. And she's got lots of stuff that you can, as you say, that you can engage with, even if you don't live near Warminster. And if you're one of Angie's followers, then do give me a follow as well. And if you want to get any more clarity with carbohydrate, then you can download my free ebook, which makes for some nice, there's lots of pictures in it, but it makes for a
anything
nice
free people should just download
yeah,
anyway. I just kind of think,
yeah,
like, why would you even think about that? If somebody
yeah.
with a lovely qualification is telling you some free news, like, go and download it, definitely.
I think it's useful just to get a bit of clarity in all of
Yeah.
the noise out there, and that's hopefully what we've brought for some of you today. So thank you so much, Angie. I will
Pleasure as always.
let you go and have a dog cuddle,
Yeah,
and
get the kids
I
up.
will. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, lots of love, and we'll catch up soon.
Oh, thanks, Laura.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I do like a bit of a rant, and yeah, this feels like the perfect day to do it. I am, of course, at the end of a 2-month homeschooling stretch as well, so I'm already feeling a little bit narky. If I don't sound as intelligent or as articulate as I have done in previous videos, then please forgive me, but we're all kind of hanging on by a thread at this stage. But I wanted to talk about World Obesity Day because, again, it brings it back to this idea that obesity is a thing that we need to do something about. Of course, obesity itself is not a behaviour, okay? So we can't really do something to it as such. We keep getting messages, particularly around the COVID crisis, that we need to be really conscious of our weight, particularly because it increases our risk of death from COVID. The Journal of the American Medical Association looked at a huge cohort back in the summer of last year to really look at the risk factors for dying from COVID when in ICU. And they categorically found that BMI does not significantly increase your risk of death from COVID. I can send you the paper and we can talk about it some more, but fundamentally there is a mismatch between what the data is actually showing and some of the messages coming out in the media. I want to come back to this point then about obesity and the fact that we have to fix it, and the best way to fix it is to diet. Fundamentally, we know dieting does not work for 95% of cases. So people are not able to maintain massive losses of weight that they may achieve through dieting. So if a drug had a less than 10% success rate, do you think we would keep prescribing it? I don't think so. We would probably stop taking the drug and say to our doctor that we don't think it's working for us. So why is it then, when we're trying to treat obesity, that we keep putting in place a method that fundamentally doesn't work? We also know that dieting is not without harm, and this is another message that never gets out there. So when we repeatedly put the body through calorie restrictions and dieting, there are a number of metabolic adaptations that are going on behind the scenes there. So each time you diet and get down to a certain body weight, you are not the same body as you were the last time you did that. Which is why we can see that dieting actually is a very strong predictor of somebody gaining weight over time. There are lots of reasons why we can see across the world that our body weights are going up. But I also want to flag that the diet industry and the scale of the diet industry has also gone up over time. So there's a bit of a correlation there between actually the treatment fundamentally actually adding and causing the problem in the first place. If we were actually allowed permission to not diet and to take a breath and a fundamental look at what drives our eating and lifestyle behaviours without putting weight as the central focus from which we can measure our success or beat ourselves up for failing, we could have a much more intelligent look at the situation. What gets in the way of actually you being able to know when you are hungry and when you are full? what are the other factors that influence what you put in your mouth? For example, stress or feelings that you're trying to address and cope with. Do you feel constantly shamed and guilty because you are failing at losing weight? Because this in itself is an independent factor for health. Weight stigma, weight bias, and the fundamental self-loathing that failing in dieting brings. It means we don't want to take care of ourselves. It means we don't genuinely know how to properly nourish ourselves, both physically and mentally. We know dieting increases disordered eating, it increases levels of anxiety and depression, and it stops people accessing healthcare because they feel that their weight is going to be the one thing that is stamped on their card above all else. So again, I say, please, can we just start having intelligent conversations about this whole thing? Let's actually look at health. We have so much data that tells us, irrespective of what you weigh, you can live longer on this planet if you have certain health behaviours in place. For example, eating fruits and vegetables, being physically active, drinking within the guidelines, and not smoking. Let's really start to look at health and what that means for all of us, rather than constantly putting weight under the microscope and making it a thing. The size of your body does not determine your health or how long you are going to live on this planet for. I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you soon.